He made me feel small, unworthy, unlovable, until I found someone who reminded me of my worth. At first, I swore I'd never cross the line, that I'd be the bigger person. But then I realized, he didn't deserve my loyalty. The night I came home with a new spark in my eye, he noticed. "Why are you smiling like that?" he asked. I smirked. "Oh, nothing. Just finally feeling appreciated." His face twisted. "By who?" I leaned in and whispered, "By a man who actually knows how to love a woman." His hands clenched, and that's when I knew the tables had turned. I never thought I'd post here. I've read stories, sure, late at night when I couldn't sleep. I used to wonder how people got to that point. How you could let something like that happen. And now I get it. Because I'm in it. Right now. This is still happening. No ending yet. I'm a 42-year-old woman, born and raised in Milwaukee. I've been with my husband Greg since college. That's over 20 years together. Married for 17. No kids. Just the two of us. People used to call us solid. That word makes me sick now. Solid like a stone. Heavy. Cold. When I met Greg, I was 21. He was 24. I was finishing my degree in English Lit. He was starting a job in supply chain logistics. He had this dry, sarcastic humor. Quiet, not loud, but sharp. Smart, confident. We clicked fast. I was young, wanted stability, someone who looked like he had his life together. He made me feel safe. We got married a year later. Small wedding. My mom cried. His parents said we were a good match. I believed them. At first, things were fine. Comfortable. We bought a modest house near Bayview. I started teaching high school English. He moved up in his company. We had dinners together. Sunday grocery trips. Netflix nights. Nothing exciting, but not bad either. Then little things started. Not overnight. Slowly. Like rust. Quiet and creeping. I'd make dinner and he'd say, "You didn't salt this enough." "No thank you." "No, this is good." Just what I did wrong. I'd laugh too loud at a movie and he'd pause it and stare. "Why are you always trying to be the center of attention?" he'd ask. I wasn't. I was just reacting. Being myself. He picked at how I folded laundry. How I talked to the neighbors. How I laughed on the phone with my sister. I'd wear a new dress and he'd say, "That doesn't really flatter your figure." I'd try to brush it off. Say he didn't mean it like that. But over the years, those little comments turned into something heavier. He stopped holding my hand in public. Stopped saying, "I love you," unless I said it first. Sex became rare. Once every couple months. And when it happened, it was mechanical. No passion. No foreplay. Just something to cross off his mental list. I asked him if we were okay. He said, "We're married." What do you expect? That we act like horny teenagers. He said it like I was stupid for even wanting that. I thought maybe I was the problem. I started working out more. Cooking better meals. Being extra nice. I made reservations for date nights. Planned weekend getaways. But he always had an excuse. Tired. Work stress. Bad mood. I started dreading coming home. I'd sit in my car for 10 minutes in the driveway, just breathing. Trying to build myself up to walk into that cold house. A house that used to be ours, but now felt like his. One day, he looked at me over dinner and said, "You talk too much. It's exhausting." I hadn't even said anything for most of the day. I just sat there. Frozen. That sentence, out of nowhere, hit me like a slap. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the shower running so he wouldn't hear. He probably wouldn't have cared anyway. And then last spring, something happened. I was having a rough week. One of my students had an anxiety attack in class. Another got caught stealing. Admin was breathing down our necks about test scores. I was done. Burned out. I didn't want to go home. I stopped at a small Italian place for takeout. Trattoria di Carlo, near the lake. I looked like hell. Hoodie, tired eyes, no makeup. I was just standing there, waiting for my food, when a man next to me asked if I'd tried their tiramisu. I said no. He said, "You should. It's the kind of dessert that makes you believe in second chances." I laughed. I hadn't laughed like that in weeks. His name was Mark. Mid-50s, sharp suit, warm eyes. He was in town from Minneapolis, visiting clients. We started talking. First about food. Then books. He noticed the poetry book I had sticking out of my bag and said, "You don't meet many people who read Rilke for fun." I couldn't believe it. Someone who not only noticed, but cared. We talked until our food came. Then he asked if I'd sit for 5 minutes, just to eat. I almost said no. But something inside me said, "Just this once, say yes." We sat at a table by the window. He listened. I mean really listened. Not in a performative way. In a quiet, patient way. I told him I was a teacher. He told me he was an editor. We talked about writing. About what makes people feel alive. When we said goodbye, he gave me his card. Said, "If you ever want to talk books or life, email me." I smiled and walked away. I didn't plan to email him. But 3 days later, I did. It started casual. Just chatting. He'd ask what I was reading. I'd ask what projects he was working on. Then we started texting. Still innocent. Still nothing physical. But something in me started waking up again. Mark made me feel seen. He remembered what I said. Asked follow-up questions. Encouraged me to start writing again. When I sent him a short poem, he said it made him feel something. Greg hadn't read a single thing I'd written in years. I told Mark I was married. He didn't push. He respected it. But he also didn't hide how he felt. He said he wished I wasn't with someone who made me feel small. He said I deserved warmth, touch, joy. I told myself it was just an emotional thing. Harmless. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd already crossed a line in my heart. One Friday night, I told Greg I was going out with coworkers. I wasn't. I drove to Lakefront Brewery to meet Mark. We sat by the river, the city lights reflecting off the water. He reached across the table and touched my hand. My whole body felt like it lit up. No one had touched me like that in years. When he walked me to my car, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. He said, you're remembering what it feels like to be alive. Then he kissed me. And I let him. And I kissed him back. I didn't go home until past midnight. I sat in the car for a long time. Looked at my face in the rearview mirror. I looked different. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just awake. When I walked inside, Greg was sitting on the couch, watching sports, half drunk. He looked up and narrowed his eyes. Why are you smiling like that? He asked. I looked right at him and said, oh, nothing. Just finally feeling appreciated. He sat up straighter. By who? I leaned in close. Calm. Quiet. By a man who actually knows how to love a woman. His jaw clenched. He didn't say anything. Just sat there stunned. For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. That moment? That was power. That was years of being invisible suddenly flipping on its head. That was the night the tables turned. I haven't left yet, but I'm packing a little more each day. Emotionally. Mentally. Physically. I'm not staying in a house where I'm just a piece of furniture. I know some people will judge me. Say I cheated. Say I broke vows. But what about the years he made me feel like a ghost in my own life? What about the times I cried in silence while he ignored me, criticized me, made me feel like nothing? I don't know where this ends yet, but I do know I'm not going back to sleep. That's it. That's where I'm at. I'll update if anything changes. Or explodes. Whatever comes first. It's been a few weeks since that night. The night I came home with a spark in my eye and told Greg someone else knew how to love a woman. He's been acting different. He started waking up earlier. Shaving. Wearing cologne again. Making coffee for both of us. He even texted me once during the day, just to say, thinking of you. But it was all too polished. Too late. It didn't feel real. It felt like a performance. Like he knew he was losing his grip and now he was scrambling. And I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't the only one keeping secrets. I started noticing him being weird with his phone. He used to leave it on the kitchen counter. Now it's always in his pocket. Always on silent. Always face down. One night I asked, who are you texting? He said, work stuff. I said, at 10:30 p.m.? He didn't even blink. Deadlines don't sleep. But something was off. I knew that tone. That calm, practiced way of answering without actually answering. I wasn't dumb. I just didn't want to know. Not yet. That same week, Mark came into town again. He didn't pressure me to see him. He said, I'll be here for a few days. If you want to talk, I'll be at that little coffee shop on Lincoln. I said nothing. But I went. I told him everything. About Greg's sudden switch. The coffee. The fake smiles. The phone. Mark listened, like always. He didn't offer advice. He just held space for me. Then he said something that's been stuck in my head ever since. You think you're the villain in his story. But maybe he was just better at hiding his own crimes. I went home that night, and Greg was already in bed, pretending to sleep. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the floor. Then I opened his phone. He never changed the passcode. Still the same dumb 4 digits from our wedding date. There were texts. Not many. Just enough. A woman named Vanessa. A few heart emojis. A screenshot of a hotel booking from 2 months ago. That hit me hard. 2 months ago was before I kissed Mark. Before any of it. I took screenshots. Sent them to myself. I didn't say anything. Not yet. The next morning, I made coffee. Sat across from Greg. Calm. You seeing someone? I asked. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, no, I waited. Then I said her name. His whole face dropped. The performance cracked. His mouth opened like he was about to lie again, but nothing came out. He finally muttered, it didn't mean anything. That sentence. That goddamn sentence. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stared. Then I asked, so what does any of this mean then? He had no answer. The next few days were strange. We lived in silence. Avoided eye contact. Ate separately. Slept on opposite sides of the bed, barely breathing near each other. And then something happened I didn't expect. Mark's ex-wife called me. Yeah, his ex-wife. She got my number from some stupid shared social event invite Mark posted on Facebook. She found my name. Looked me up. Called my work line. Left a voicemail. I was shaking when I listened to it in the car. She said, I thought you should know what kind of man Mark really is. That was all she said. I didn't call her back. I didn't tell Mark. But it gnawed at me. So the next time we met, I asked him about it. Straight up. He sighed. Looked tired. He said, she resents me for leaving. I left after years of coldness. Just like you're going through now. I asked, was there someone else? He didn't lie. Yes, I met someone else. But I didn't cheat. I just emotionally drifted away. Like you did. That answer wasn't wrong. But it wasn't good either. Something about it didn't sit right. He was giving me a mirror, but it wasn't clear. It was cracked. Now I'm sitting in this in-between space. Greg knows I know. I know what he did. He knows what I've done. Mark feels like safety, but I'm starting to wonder if he's just a different version of the same thing. And me? I don't even know who I am anymore. I walk around work like a ghost. I go home to a house that feels like a stage. I sit in my car and wonder how it all fell apart so quietly, so slowly, so permanently. And now? Now Greg wants to talk. He left a note on the kitchen table. Can we try therapy? 1 session. I'll go. I stared at it for 5 minutes. I haven't said yes. I haven't said no. Because here's the truth, I don't trust him. But I don't fully trust Mark either. And I don't trust myself to make the right choice. I'm stuck in a moment where everything feels fragile. Heavy. About to break. And I don't know if I should fight for this broken marriage. Or burn the whole thing down and walk into the unknown. No ending yet. Just chaos. I'll post an update when something finally breaks. Greg booked the therapy session without waiting for my answer. He emailed me the confirmation, like it was some kind of test. The appointment was for a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. The subject line just said, let's try. I stared at the screen. I didn't respond. I didn't cancel either. Part of me wanted to go, just to say things I'd never had the space to say. Part of me didn't want to give him the satisfaction. But in the end, I went. The office was in one of those beige brick buildings downtown. We sat in the waiting room in silence. He looked nervous. I felt nothing. The therapist, Dr. Rosen, was kind. Soft-spoken. Neutral. She asked us why we were there. I waited. Let him talk first. He said, we're not connecting. There's a wall. I don't know when it went up, but it's there. I almost laughed. A wall? He built that wall brick by brick and now he wanted to act like it just appeared? Then he said, I think we both made mistakes. That's when I looked up. I said, are you talking about Vanessa? The therapist tilted her head. Who's Vanessa? Greg froze. I answered for him. She's the woman he booked a hotel room with while I was home cooking dinner. The air in the room got thick. Greg said nothing. Just stared at the floor. Then I added, and yes, I kissed someone else. So congratulations, we both failed. The therapist looked between us. She wasn't surprised. Like she'd seen this before. She said, sometimes the truth isn't what breaks the marriage. It's how long it was hidden. We went to 2 more sessions. I talked more. Greg listened. He cried once. Real tears. I didn't. But then, the twist. About a week after our 3rd session, Greg's phone rang while he was in the shower. The name that popped up on the screen made my stomach twist. Vanessa Work HR, not just Vanessa. Work HR? That night, after he fell asleep, I dug deeper. She worked at his office. Not only that, she wasn't just a fling. They'd been assigned on a project together for over a year. His work travel? That was with her. There were emails in his inbox. Not romantic, but way too familiar. Messages about how she missed him already, or how she couldn't wait until the next time. But then I found the bombshell. A draft email to HR. He hadn't sent it yet. But it was there. He was planning to report her for harassment. Said he was ending things and worried she might retaliate. He wrote about wanting a clean break before things go sideways. I felt sick. He wasn't just cheating. He was trying to flip the story and protect himself. Frame her. The next day, I confronted him. I didn't yell. I just asked, were you going to report her to HR after sleeping with her for months? He froze. Didn't deny it. Then he said something that knocked the air out of me. She got too attached. I didn't know what else to do. So he was going to burn her to save his own job. And reputation. That's when I realized something important. This man wasn't just cruel to me. He was strategic. Cold. Calculated. And just when I thought that was the biggest twist, Mark dropped one of his own. I was texting him, like usual, and mentioned I'd been talking to a lawyer just to ask about divorce procedures. Mark didn't reply for a few hours. Then he sent this. Before you go through all of this, I need to tell you something. My chest got tight. He called me, voice shaking. He told me he'd recently reconnected with his daughter. I didn't even know he had one. She's 22. Lives in St. Paul. He hadn't seen her in years because his ex-wife got full custody and moved away. He said the divorce was brutal and he hadn't been a great father. That he gave up too easily. That the guilt consumed him. Now the daughter wants to meet. He's trying to fix what he broke. He said, I still care about you. But I can't be everything to you while trying to fix this part of my life. It wasn't a breakup. But it was a step back. A pause. And for the first time since I met him, I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt clarity. Because maybe for once, this wasn't about men. Maybe this was about me. I'm not sure what happens next. Greg keeps acting like we're still trying. He doesn't know I saw the HR draft. He doesn't know I told a lawyer everything. Mark is still in my life, but from a distance now. And honestly, I'm okay with that. He gave me a spark when I needed it. But maybe it's not his job to fix me. Or mine to fix him. The only thing I know is I can't stay frozen much longer. Greg is still pretending this marriage has a heartbeat. But I'm starting to write again. I'm sleeping better when I'm alone. I'm picturing a life that doesn't feel like walking on broken glass. No ending yet. But something is coming. And when it does, I'll be ready. I guess this is the part where everything crashes. Or maybe it was always crashing and I just finally opened my eyes. The confrontation didn't happen in a quiet room. It wasn't calm or private. It happened in the middle of a dinner party. Yeah, a dinner party. My sister and her husband had invited us over. They were hosting a small gathering, just 8 of us, all mid-40s, wine, charcuterie, soft jazz in the background. The kind of setting where you're supposed to pretend everything's fine. Greg wanted to go. Said it would look good if we acted normal. I wasn't in the mood, but I went. I wore black, barely spoke. Just smiled when someone looked my way. Then, somewhere between dessert and after-dinner drinks, my brother-in-law made a joke, some dumb comment about how married people lie all the time just to avoid fights. It wasn't even directed at us. But Greg laughed too loud, looked at me and said, "Ain't that the truth?" That was it. That little smirk. That glance. I stood up. The room went quiet. My sister said, "Everything okay?" I said, "Actually, no. I think this is the perfect time to tell everyone that Greg's been cheating on me with a woman from his office named Vanessa. And now he's planning to report her to HR to save his own ass." You could have heard a pin drop. Greg's face turned red. He stood up too. "What the hell are you doing?" I didn't stop. "Don't act shocked. You wanted a scene? Here's your scene." He started stammering. "This isn't the place." I shot back. "You lost the right to decide the place the second you started lying in my bed and hers." My sister tried to intervene. "Okay, let's maybe talk outside?" But I was past the point of polite. "You want to know the best part?" I said, turning to the room. He was planning to report her. After using her. Because it got messy. Because she didn't stay in her lane. That's who he is. Greg shouted then. Loud enough to rattle the wine glasses. She wasn't supposed to get attached. It was just supposed to be, and there it was. Every person in that room knew who he really was in that moment. Vanessa wasn't the problem. I wasn't the problem. He was. He stormed out. Slammed the door. My sister followed, probably to stop him from doing something dramatic like peeling out of the driveway. I just stood there. Everyone was silent. Then my brother-in-law, voice barely above a whisper, said, "Jesus Christ." The aftermath wasn't quick. Or clean. Greg didn't come home that night. Or the next. 2 days later, he sent me a long email. No apology. Just excuses. He said he felt trapped, unseen, resented. Said I had changed. That I stopped caring about us. I read it 3 times. Not once did he say he was sorry. Not once did he say he loved me. Mark reached out after seeing the post I made on a private Facebook group for women going through divorce. He messaged me, gently. He said he was thinking of me. That he understood if I didn't want to talk. I told him I needed space. He said, "Take all the space you need." And he meant it. No pressure. No guilt. That's when I realized the difference between the 2 men. Greg needed control. Mark offered freedom. A few weeks later, I filed the papers. Greg didn't fight me. I think he knew. There was no saving this. He moved out, and I let him take the house. I didn't want it anymore. It was just a shell full of memories that hurt. I rented a small apartment near the lake. Quiet. Simple. Clean walls. No shadows. My sister called every day for a while. She felt bad. Said she wished she had known. Said she never liked how he talked to me but didn't want to interfere. My mom cried when I told her. Not because she was sad we split. But because she said, I always hoped one day you'd leave. Turns out, everyone saw it. They were just waiting for me to see it too. Now, I wake up alone. Sometimes it's peaceful. Sometimes it's lonely. But here's what I've learned. There's a strange kind of grief that comes when you realize you spent years loving someone who never really loved you back. Not in the way you needed. Not in the way that mattered. I gave him loyalty, time, silence. He gave me indifference, criticism, betrayal. And yet, I still feel guilt sometimes. Isn't that wild? That women are trained so well to carry the blame, we still hold it even when the proof is sitting in our inboxes. As for Mark, we still talk, once in a while. I don't know what the future looks like with him. Or without him. I'm not rushing into anything. Not trying to fill a hole with another person. I go for walks now. Read more. Started writing again. Not just poems. Pages and pages of thoughts. Of truth. Of anger and softness and hurt. Sometimes healing looks like nothing at all. Just a quiet evening and the absence of pain. So here's my truth. Greg didn't break me. He freed me. He made me feel small, unworthy, unlovable, until I remembered I was never any of those things to begin with. He just convinced me I was. But not anymore. Now I know better. And I will never shrink myself again.